Good morning. Football Friday. Jeremy and Joe. Football Friday brought to you by Solino Law, Car Crash Call the 8s, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Crosby's hometown fuel, game day ready since 1922. It is a Football Friday, and we go to Chris Brown, who will have the call of the game on Sunday at 4:25 with Eric Wood and Sal Capaccio on the sidelines as well. Chris, good morning. Chiefs week, we've talked it to death, but we got a couple more days to get there. And I'm eager to see, Chris, the contrasting styles between these two offenses.
Yeah, I'm also interested in seeing, if the Bills have left anything in the bag, so to speak, for this game specifically. They've had a couple of blowout wins, and they've probably left stuff on the call sheet. And I wonder if also there are some other things that they have saved specifically for this game. I'm not pretending to know that, but I'm curious if that is the case.
I also wonder, we sometimes, Chris, think about that more as an offensive point. How much do you think that could be the defense and what they can put on the field, especially because some of the players that have been thrust into the lineup, now that they're available, give the Bills potentially a lot more options to use?
Yeah, I certainly think there's less for Andy Reid and Matt Nagy to go on film-wise with the new additions to the defensive lineup. Hairston, Hoyt, Ogunjobi maybe to a lesser degree. But I think Hoyt has proven in just one game he's a guy you better have a plan for. And what is that plan? And Hairston, I think, gives the Bills another answer in terms of the matchups. I mean, I'm not a coordinator, but I think it makes a lot of sense to just have Hairston follow Worthy all over the field on Sunday. And then you put Benford on Rice for a physical matchup. And you still have the rest to figure out, which isn't nothing.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown and Kelsey are still major threats, as well as Schuster, who's been kind of rejuvenated in the middle of the field, as an inside receiver. So I don't know that the Bills are going to be able to cover all the bases. So I think the pass rush is going to be critical on Sunday.
And that's one thing, the pass rush, we saw it against Carolina a little bit. It's about, of course, like getting there quickly, but it really is about compressing the pocket and making sure Patrick Mahomes does not get out, because he's having a very good season, escaping pressure and throwing outside of structure.
Yeah, and I think he's only about 40 yards shy of what his rushing total was all of last season, and he's done that in 8 games. And it's funny, I was talking to one of the Washington reporters who covers the Commanders. They obviously played on Monday night, for 2 things. The first thing I asked him was, how did they choose to rush Mahomes? And he said there were a lot of times in critical situations where they went with that quote-unquote cage rush, where you just try to cage him in. The 4th and 2, when he throws the touchdown on an off-script play to Kareem Hunt, they actually had a cage rush on in that play. But the problem was the left end got too far upfield. He's undisciplined. He leaves him a wide open lane to run out to the right, and he buys about 3 or 4 extra seconds of time, and that's all you need. That's all Patrick Mahomes needs to make a play for you, and it's a touchdown pass on an off-script play to Kareem Hunt. The other question I asked him was, how much did the Chiefs load the box against what was the number 2 rushing offense coming into the game? I was figuring Chiefs would load the box. We're not terribly worried about Marcus Mariota beating us. And he said, no, they went with a lot of 7-man boxes and just stuffed their run just due to outstanding gap integrity and strong tackling. You look at the Chiefs' run defense, I'm a little concerned there. I mean, they've given up 60 yards rushing on average the last 3 games. And it was the number 2 rushing offense in Washington and the number 5 rushing offense at the time in Detroit. They held Detroit to 98 yards rushing.
Yeah, so it's kind of a battle of strengths on that side of the ball. That'll be, man, if they are able to keep the Bills' run game in check, that'll be a real test, especially with the deadline on Tuesday for fans and talking about this game and this team right now. What type of test it would be if the Chiefs do have answers for the Bills' rush game, because then, of course, it becomes, can you stand back in the pocket and beat them through the air?
Right. I think the other element to think about, too, and look, I'm not trying to dismiss Buffalo's offensive line in any way, shape, or form. They're pretty damn good, and I think they're going to bring it. At a defensive front that just felt it necessary to add Mike Pennell, the veteran kind of space eater that they signed after he got his release from the Cincinnati practice squad. Chris Jones apparently told the front office, hey, you better get that guy back in here. We need him. So, that's something to keep an eye on as well. I think it also shouldn't be dismissed that the Chiefs are coming off a bit of a shorter week. So maybe they don't have as many bells and whistles in their game plan this week, just having one day less of prep time.
Chris Brown joining us on the Western Hotline ahead of Bills Chiefs. Of course, the deadline is just 2 days after, Chris. A lot of talk about this team and whether or not they need to add something. I wonder if the pass catchers on this team, it's one thing to be motivated. It's another thing to turn that into production, right, and find a way in this game. So do you feel like it is the moves at the deadline, if the Bills are thinking anything, that they could or should be influenced by what happens in that 3-hour window against Kansas City?
Well, I think because you believe the Chiefs are a team you are going to see again, I think you do use this game as a bit of a self-assessment and say to yourself, all right, can we defend them properly and effectively enough to keep our team in the game? And can our offense either A, keep up, or be productive and efficient enough to kind of control the tempo of the game and reduce the number of possessions that the Chiefs have? If we can do all those things, they're probably going to come out of the game feeling pretty good about themselves. If this is a lopsided affair, and very few of these games have been, well, then maybe they do need to reassess what they have and what they still might need.
Chris Brown with us. Chris, when back on the Chiefs offense for a moment, are you seeing more out of Kelsey so far this year? I mean, he's not done a lot against the Bills in his last couple of games. There was an 8-yard performance. I think he had 19 in the playoff game last year, but it's probably what's happening around him. But he looks a little rejuvenated this year.
Yeah, he leads the team in receptions and receiving yards. I think the main reason why is because he is the least threatening player in their receiving core to get behind you. So a lot of these defenses, whether they're playing cover 2 shell or just trying to play top down and keep everything in front of them, they're more concerned about the guys that can blow their doors off for 80 yards and a touchdown than they are for a lumbering tight end, at age 33, who isn't what he used to be. So they'll just satisfy themselves with, okay, well, he just made a catch and run for 20 yards because he just leaked out after protecting on an extended play. We'll take that because we get to live for another down. It's better than Xavier Worthy getting behind us for an 80-yard touchdown and a 3-play scoring drive. So I think, in essence, for opposing defenses, he's the lesser of all the evils, which seems kind of crazy to say, knowing he's one of the most prolific tight ends in NFL history.
Chris Brown on the Western Hotline ahead of Bills Chiefs Sunday 4:25. And then finally, Chris, I wonder your level of what it means in the big picture. It's different from years past where this is about the 1 seed. For it's kind of strange to say it, but does each team need it maybe more than they have in years past?
Because of divisions.
Because of divisions. Yeah. It is a different conversation this year for both these teams. And we're watching Baltimore kind of fight for it as well right now.
Yeah, Steve and I were actually talking about that on the show earlier this week. There is a different tone to this game because for the first time in a while, these teams aren't alone ahead of the pack as division leaders. I mean, you think about the game last year, the Chiefs came in here undefeated, 9-0 in Week 11. I mean, there was zero pressure on them. They were like skating to the 1 seed. The Bills had to beat them just to try to hang on and keep it a race. There was very little pressure on them to come in here and win a football game. They come in here and have a 4th loss in 9 games. Not ideal. Although I did look it up, guys. The last time the Chiefs had 4 losses by the time they got to Week 9 was 2022, if I have the year right. They ended up finishing 12-5 and lost in the AFC title game to the Bengals. So even if they drop this game to the Bills, I wouldn't advise anyone to kick dirt on them.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, they are in 3rd place on tiebreaker right now in the AFC West, and they do still have to play the Broncos twice, so they do control some of their own destiny to some degree, and the Bills are looking up at the Patriots. So, yeah, I think there is a new level of desperation for both teams in this game.
Chris Brown, he'll have the call of the game Sunday, 4:25. Thanks, Chris. We'll talk on Buffalo Bills football Monday.
All right, take care, guys. Have a good Halloween.
Yeah, Chris Brown's appearance brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com.